Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Rabinowitz, along with Joey Kaufman here at CQ Stadium. They renamed the stadium here during the season, where Ohio State survived Maryland 43-30. Not the game we expected. I think we both thought.
Hold up. What do you mean we didn't expect it?
You expected this?
Well, maybe not like this, but I mean, like the potential loom for a trap game. There was all this talk all week about a letdown game the week before Michigan, and like it wasn't out of the cards. Maybe not this competitive.
Joey's fired up.
Yeah, I came in a little hot.
He's fired up. I haven't seen Joey like this.
That's what the second cup of coffee at halftime will do to you.
Man. Well, Ohio State trailed at halftime only third time this year, 13-10. They looked, I don't say they walked through the first half, but it was pretty close. TreVeyon Henderson came back, was ineffective as a runner. Ohio State just kind of looked just flat. And then at the beginning of the second half, Lathan Ransom, who had broken his thumb early in the game, was wearing a cast, blocked a punt. That really sparked Ohio State. They took a 27-13 lead. You figure, okay, Maryland had their fun, and no. At 33-30, Talia Tagliavoa was terrific. I mean, that's the quarterback that we thought we'd see all year. This team lost 30-0 to Penn State last week, and that was not the Maryland team that showed up today. And it really came down to Ohio State just surviving.
Yeah, I think we all thought maybe going in Ohio State would win more comfortably than they did. But this was the team that Maryland showed they could be in
Right.
September. They just hadn't played like that in recent weeks. They were sort of in a free fall where they were shut out by Penn State. They really struggled up in Wisconsin. Their offensive line was really just being overrun, and Talia was getting hit a bunch, and he had been sacked 12 times the last 2 weeks. So there were a lot of ways this game was not trending in a positive direction for Maryland, but this was a wacky Saturday in college football. It's the second to last weekend of the regular season. Georgia only won by 10 points at Kentucky. Michigan won against Illinois on a last-second field goal at home. TCU had to escape and win by a point
And
at
even
Baylor.
now, South Carolina is leading Tennessee as we talk, 28-14. So this was the most dominant win of the top, 5 or so. Go ahead.
But it does feel like that juncture in the regular season where teams can kind of see the finish line. And I don't know if they're looking ahead, or that's probably part of the emotion too, especially for Ohio State. I mean, they've thought about that loss to Michigan for a lot of days in the last year, and now they finally get a crack at them. So that's probably part of the mindset. I think the surprising thing when you look at this game and you just get down to the brass tacks of the game, Ohio State had trouble running the ball in the first half. TreVeyon Henderson was back. He's had a foot injury the last couple of weeks that sidelined him. And he ran 11 times, got 19 yards, just did not look fully healthy, was hobbling, didn't feel like he was cutting inside, and then Dallin Hayden comes on.
What Dallin Hayden does is he goes forward. He just goes straight. TreVeyon Henderson is a breakaway threat, which means he kind of dances sometimes. Sometimes you just need to go north-south. And Dallin Hayden does that, which means when he gets hit at the line of scrimmage, he can fall forward and get a couple yards. And that was essential today. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns, and then the last drive, he carried the ball, I think, 6 straight times to start the drive. I mean, ran out the clock, basically. I mean, Ohio State had to punt, and then Zach Harrison had a sack, and then
the
2
field goal.
That's right, there's a field goal. Right, there's a field goal. And then Maryland stupidly ran the kickoff back. That wasted time, but whatever. Then Zach Harrison had a sack on first down, and then a strip sack. The ball pops up. Steele Chambers catches it, kind of like the old Joey Bosa play at Northwestern several years ago. And so it was a very deceptive 43-30 win. I mean, like we talked about, this was the Maryland team that we thought when the schedule came out, and you go, what's a trap game? This, because Maryland has athletes. They have a quality quarterback. I'm not sure Ohio State's going to play a quarterback who can make the plays that he did today the rest of the year. I'm not saying there aren't better quarterbacks, but he had a touchdown pass that made it 33-30. Fourth down, Ohio State flushes him out of the pocket. He's almost falling out of bounds, and he throws across his body. Perfect pass for a touchdown. You just kind of throw up your hands. I mean, the other team, they make plays too. So, this was the Maryland team, and the writer next to me was a Maryland writer. He said, basically, where's this team been all year? So they showed up against Ohio State, as sometimes teams tend to do.
Yeah, I think the way the game started for Maryland, it was if they were going to be in the game, they were going to have to start out fast, and they've done that at times. I mean, Talia completed his first 11 passes of the game, and in the first half, I haven't looked at the final box score, but at least in the first half, he threw to 9 different guys. I mean, Maryland has talent on the perimeter, especially a receiver. They're deep there, and I think Ohio State has been vulnerable at times this year. The back end of their defense, the cornerback play, and we saw that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it really has a ton of bearing on next week's game against Michigan. They totally different style of football. Right. Michigan wants to beat you up front and play bully ball. Maryland wants to spread you out and throw the ball and do some creative tinkering on the edges. But that's where Ohio State, I think, can be really vulnerable, and is why they got scared as much as they did today.
I mean, I think Maryland coaches outcoached Ohio State's coaches, to be honest with you. I think they did. I think their game plan on offense was much more imaginative, but Maryland did everything that Maryland wanted to do. I mean, look, Ohio State's better. Ohio State's got more talent, but they did a good job on defense. Marvin Harrison, first Ohio State scores like 90 seconds of the game. Boom, 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 boom. Marvin Harrison does Marvin Harrison things. He was I don't say a non-factor the rest of the way, but not nearly the factor that we've come to know. Ohio State's offense really didn't do much the rest of the half. They had the one field goal, and that was it. And, it really took Dallin Hayden kind of taking over the game. I mean, C.J. Stroud had an okay game, but nothing special.
It felt in a lot of ways similar to the Notre Dame game, season opener that Ohio State had, where they were trailing at halftime, and they didn't really have maybe some of the explosive plays that you come to expect from the Ohio State offense, and they had to give it to a running back to ice the game. In game one, week one, it was Mayan Williams. In this game, it was Dallin Hayden, which I don't know if anybody would have expected in the preseason. I mean, he was a freshman who didn't enroll until June. A lot of times the freshman class, they come in the winter and they have all spring practice. He was not like that. I mean, Travion Henderson, Evan Pryor came in last year in 2021 as freshmen, had all spring ball. Dallin Hayden comes in June, and he has had to work his way up the depth chart largely due to need, because Evan Pryor got hurt in fall camp out there with a knee injury. Then Mayan Williams and Travion have been so banged up over the last month or so, and he carried the ball 27 times today. A freshman who showed up just less than 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, well, now it's on to Michigan. That's, it's kind of felt like an 11-game preseason in certain ways, and now it's a 1-game season that's for everything. And you can't. This is one of those games you can't overstate how big this is. Not just for the Big Ten championship, not just to get into the playoff. It's their pride really at stake. I mean, Ohio State's heard, and players have talked about this. They were denigrated after that game. They were called soft. All that, the toughness stuff, all that stuff. In 7 days, they get a chance to answer it. We'll find out.
They've heard a lot. I mean, you've heard it from Josh Gaddis after that game, the former Michigan offensive coordinator, who called them a finesse team. Even when C.J. Stroud went to the Heisman Trophy ceremony, it was on stage in Midtown Manhattan. I mean, just the finalists, everyone's in a chummy mood. It's the banquet circuit in college football. Right. And even Desmond Howard, who's a commentator at ESPN, calls, former Michigan receiver, calls out his offensive line. So it has been sort of a nonstop 360-day chest puffing from Michigan. And I think Ohio State is looking forward to Saturday, I think I could say.
Yeah, and Michigan has its own questions at running back, because Blake Corum got hurt today. I played a little bit in the second half. I didn't see all the game, but there's a question about his health, certainly. And Blake Corum to Michigan is probably as important as C.J. Stroud is to Ohio State, or close to it. I think Ohio State would be okay if they felt like C.J. McCarthy has to do what Tagovailoa did today. I think they'd like to make J.J. McCarthy do that.
Yeah, I think they certainly would. And I think that was another notable thing that happened from today. We saw Matthew Jones went down. He walked out on crutches. He had some tape on his right foot. So it looks like we'll see about his stats for next week. If not, Enoch Vimahi would be the likely right guard at his spot. But you avoided, I guess, a situation, what we saw in Ann Arbor, where your star player goes down. There was no catastrophic scene with C.J. Stroud or Marvin Harrison Jr. or Tommy Eichenberg, anything like that. One of your true sort of top tier leader of the team. I think it was important to get those guys through this one and on to Michigan healthy.
Right. Well, we will have obviously plenty to write and talk about this week with the game coming up. Thanks for watching this, and enjoy our coverage at dispatch.com. Thank you.